The books of Chronicles were written in the early Persian period as the Jewish people returned to the land. At least some of them returned, but many of them remained in exile. There's two purposes. In 1 Chronicles, it is to establish who the people are, and it provides the historical links leading to the establishment of the throne of David. As such, it consists of many names and genealogies, and from that point of view can be difficult for us to read. But it establishes the link of the children of Israel throughout history back to Adam, and is the foundation of the New Testament also, which begins with the genealogy of Jesus Christ, King of the Jews. The second book of Chronicles is a much more interesting read. It summarises the period of the kingdom from Solomon through to the destruction of the kingdom. And it clearly shows that the children of Israel were disobedient, and that's why they were judged. But when they were obedient, they were blessed. And the character of the nation depended very much on the leadership provided by the king. And so in any society, the leadership sets the tone for that society. When you have godly leaders, then the nation heads towards godliness. And when you have leaders who don't care about God, or who are interested in establishing themselves or solving their own problems, then that sets the tone for that nation as well. And things begin to fall apart. We'll see this lesson emphasised time and time again as we read through 2 Chronicles. Today, chapter 1. Now Solomon, the son of David, was strengthened in his kingdom, and the Lord his God was with him, and exalted him exceedingly. And Solomon spoke to all Israel, to the captains of thousands and of hundreds, to the judges and to every leader in all Israel, the heads of the fathers' houses. Then Solomon and all the assembly with him went to the high place that was at Gibeon, for the tabernacle of meeting with God was there, which Moses the servant of the Lord had made in the wilderness. Now David had brought up the ark of God from Kirjath-jearim to the place David had prepared for it, for he had pitched a tent for it at Jerusalem. Now the bronze altar that Bezalel the son of Uri the son of Hur had made, he put before the tabernacle of the Lord. Solomon and the assembly sought him there. And Solomon went up to the bronze altar before the Lord, which was at the tabernacle of meeting, and offered 1,000 burnt offerings on it. On that night God appeared to Solomon, and said to him, Ask, what shall I give you? And Solomon said to him, You have shown great mercy to David my father, and have made me king in his place. Now, O Lord God, let your promise to David my father be established, for you have made me king over a people like the dust of the earth in multitude. Now give me wisdom and knowledge, that I may go out and come in before this people. For who can judge this great people of yours? Then God said to Solomon, Because this was in your heart, and you have not asked riches or wealth or honour or the life of your enemies, nor have you asked long life, but have asked wisdom and knowledge for yourself, that you may judge my people over whom I have made you the king, wisdom and knowledge are granted to you. And I will give you riches and wealth and honour, such as none of the kings have had who were before you, nor shall any after you have the like. So Solomon came to Jerusalem from the high place that was at Gibeon, from before the tabernacle of meeting, and reigned over Israel. And Solomon gathered chariots and horsemen. He had 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horsemen, whom he stationed in the chariot cities and with the king in Jerusalem. Also the king made silver and gold as common in Jerusalem as stones, and he made cedars as abundant as the sycamores which are in the lowland. And Solomon had horses imported from Egypt, and Kivar. The king's merchants brought them in Kivar at the current price. They also acquired and imported from Egypt a chariot for 600 shekels of silver, and a horse for 150. Thus, through their agents, they exported them to all the kings of the Hittites and the kings of Syria. My name's Arthur, and I thank you for joining me as we share the first chapter of 2 Chronicles. Solomon was just 20 years old when he became king, and he was very conscious that he had half-brothers who were older than him and who desired the throne. But his father had placed him on the throne, and so he needed great wisdom. The way of other leaders had always been to destroy those who sought power. But he didn't go and destroy all his brothers. There was judgment he brought on Adonijah, because Adonijah did not accept him as king, Adonijah being the one who otherwise logically had the senior position. But he wasn't about to destroy all of his brothers to establish his throne. And he wasn't focused on, first of all, making a name for himself, but rather he came to worship God at the tabernacle, which was still at Gibeon, although the Ark of the Covenant, which should normally have been in the tabernacle, was in Jerusalem. The tabernacle itself would at this stage have been very old. 500 years is a long time for a tent to last. So what form it was in, we can only guess. But it was there that the bronze altar was, and it was there he went to offer 1,000 burnt offerings to the Lord. And it was there that the Lord appeared to him in a dream and invited him to make a request. Ask, what shall I give you? A key principle in the Scriptures is that we need to ask. James explains to us that the main reason people don't receive from God is that they never ask God. Or if they do ask, it is a selfish request. We need to pray. When we have a desire, we need to seek God's will and ask what God would have us do. When he has given us a task, then we need to seek from him the resources that we need to fulfill the task. And the responsibility that was on Solomon's shoulder was to judge the people, to be a leader of the people. And so this is what he asked for, the wisdom to be a godly leader, to judge the people wisely. God was pleased with that request and granted it to him, but also granted him riches and wealth and honour, such as none of the kings who were before you. So there was a special provision also for Solomon to have wealth. This is contrary to the instructions Moses gave for a king. For Moses wrote in Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 14, "When you come to the land which the Lord your God is giving you, and possess it and dwell in it, and say, I will set a king over me like all the nations that are around me, you shall surely set a king over you, whom the Lord your God chooses. One from among your brethren you shall set as king over you. But he shall not multiply horses for himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt to multiply horses. For the Lord has said, You shall not return that way again. Neither shall he multiply wives for himself, lest his heart turn away. Nor shall he greatly multiply silver and gold for himself. Also it shall be, when he sits on the throne of his kingdom, that he shall write for himself a copy of this law in a book, and it shall be with him, and he shall read it all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God, and be careful to observe all the words of this law and these statutes." But Solomon did multiply horses, he did multiply riches, and he did multiply wives. and they did turn his heart away from the Lord.